Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open 3 centuries in the future with an alien race called the Klingons out on patrol. They come across a large energy cloud on a collision course with Earth, so they give it a warm welcome by firing torpedoes at it. When they fail to penetrate the force field, the commander contacts a human monitoring station called Epsilon 9 to warn them. Starfleet already has front row seats as a spacecraft obscured by the cloud fires balls of plasma that destroy 2 of the Klingon warships. The third tries firing a torpedo backwards while flying away, but it simply disappears off the radar and the entire crew is vaporized. Epsilon notifies Starfleet headquarters on Earth about the danger, so Admiral Kirk is given the mission of intercepting. He hasn't even been in space for nearly 3 years but gets beamed up to an office building floating in orbit. Chief Engineer Scott's waiting for him to catch a travel pod to a drydock where Kirk's old ship the Enterprise is being renovated. We take about 5 minutes just circling this thing with tears in Kirk's eyes before finally boarding, and he basically just takes over command. He relieves the current captain Decker, citing his inexperience, then tells him to go play with his phaser in the back. Kirk's old crew is happy to see him, but Starfleet tries to beam 2 more over while the teleporter's malfunctioning. These poor souls are described as not forming properly because of weak matter gain and just blink out of existence. The captain tells the transport operator Rand that there was nothing they could have done and sends his condolences to the family. He then tells Decker that he'll have to be their acting science officer since the previous one just dissolved. Kirk says that he also wants a Vulcan on board during their mission, but unfortunately the only one familiar with the ship is unavailable. Currently Spock is on his volcano-covered homeworld attaining Kolinar, which is a fancy way to say purging himself of all emotions. He's about to receive this sweet necklace but senses the ominous space mist, so a woman sticks her fingers in his face. She reads his mind to see that the human half in Spock isn't ready for Kolinar, so drops the chain and pieces out with a live long and prosper. Our Vulcan takes the necklace because somebody might trip on it, while Kirk gathers the rest of the crew to watch a transmission from Epsilon 9. They say the space cloud took their scans as hostility, so just like the Klingon fighters, the Starfleet outpost was vaporized out of existence. That's where we're heading, so Kirk informs the crew to prepare for launch once their navigator Lieutenant Ilia finally decides to show up. She has a thing with Decker but is celibate, which is why Kirk allows her to serve, because there won't be any hanky-panky between these two. The communications officer Uhura informs the captain that their final crew members are getting beamed up to the Enterprise. The medical officer Dr. McCoy appears on the ship and is angry that Starfleet drafted him out of retirement. He eventually gets over it, and when the Enterprise is detached from the dock, the captain gives the helmsman Sulu the order of thrusters ahead. They venture into the solar system as McCoy arrives on the bridge with a fresh cut, but the moment Kirk orders the warp drive engaged, we got all kinds of problems. Now Sulu can't steer and they're heading straight for an asteroid, so Decker tells weapons officer Chekov to launch a torpedo at it. We destroy the giant space rock, causing the fancy effects to dissipate, but Kirk reprimands Decker for taking leadership. The co-captains have a measuring contest with McCoy as the mediator, but Kirk acknowledges that maybe he went a little limp during the chaos. Just then Uhura informs us that a courier vessel has arrived, and it makes this sweet little maneuver before docking. Spock, dressed in his Starfleet uniform, ignores Chekov and takes over the science station whether Decker wants to relinquish it or not. Spock's human side wants to jump for joy at the sight of his friends, but his Vulcan half is still sulking about not achieving Kolinar. He goes down to engineering and immediately repairs them to full warp capacity because he's just that damn good. Now Kirk orders Sulu to put the Enterprise on an interception course with the space cloud, or intercourse for short. It'll take 24 hours, and no kidding, they spend the whole thing trying to exhibit some emotion out of Spock, but he's playing hard to get. He says that he sensed a powerful consciousness inside the cloud that distracted him from his Kolinar training, but excuses schmooshes. We're coming up on the energy cloud and Spock makes the observation that the plasma ball that nearly melts off Chekov's arm isn't a weapon. He says that it's a form of communication that their primitive transmitter couldn't handle, but he's now recalibrated it to say we come in peace. The next plasma ball just disappears, so Kirk and Spock want to investigate the cloud, but Decker calls the move an unwarranted gamble. Captain Debate Bro says define unwarranted, then proceeds to gamble everyone's lives by entering the cloud. We get a bunch of effects thrown at us before the giant vessel's rear end is revealed, generating more radiation than the Earth's sun. Flying to the front takes up about 10 minutes of the movie, cutting back and forth between the alien spacecraft and our crew's reactions. As they reach it, a beam of energy is sent by the alien ship to probe the bridge and begins checking out the science station. When it starts to download information about Starfleet's defenses, Spock smashes the controls so the probe knocks him away. It then abducts Ilia, which is exactly what Decker meant by unwarranted, and the Enterprise gets caught in a tractor beam. For another 10 minutes the ship is slowly pulled in, with the crew debating what they should do and ultimately deciding on nothing. They figure the aliens would have just blown them up if they wanted them dead, so wait until one is beamed aboard the Enterprise. An entity called V'ger has given its messenger the appearance of Ilia and says they're traveling to Earth to find the creator. McCoy performs an examination on the alien to find it's an exact replica of Ilia and even recognizes Decker as a former flame. She might not be celibate like the previous one, so Kirk swiftly ushers Decker out of the room before he defiles our alien ambassador. Spock figures if the clone has feelings for Decker, then he may be able to get information out of it, so Kirk basically pimps him out. It comes ripping through a wall like the Kool-Aid Man, so Decker escorts her to their museum of other enterprises. While he's trying to bring any of Ilia's memories to the surface with a game of space parcheesi. She says once she finishes studying everyone on board they'll be reduced to data patterns, which doesn't sound good. Intelligently, Decker convinces her to wait until Ilia's memories return because those are also sources of that juicy information. Ilia says that V'ger doesn't know who the creator is and just knows that it's from Earth, so has them traveling there to demand answers. Spock's through waiting around for answers, so he subdues the airlock technician with a Vulcan nerve pinch and puts on a thruster suit. He probably could have just asked the poor guy and flies over to the giant sphincter located on the alien spacecraft in an attempt to make contact. During one of its retractions, Spock activates the thrusters, accelerating straight up the shaft before it has time to clench. He finds inside what I would call the colon of the ship everything V'ger has catalogued, including his own homeworld made from machines. Spock finds the Epsilon 9 and an image of Ilia, but when he reaches out to it he's knocked unconscious with information. He's spat out by the sphincter and relays back to the captain that the vessel is from a planet of living machines. The vessel itself is the emotionless AI called V'ger with limitless knowledge, but is searching for its creator to ask if there's anything more to life. As it comes up on Earth, it prepares to destroy every life form on the planet, believing they're interfering with the creator's ability to respond. Kirk pulls some elementary level psychology and says that he knows why the creator hasn't responded, but will only tell V'ger personally. He has no clue but gets a one-way ticket through another sphincter to where the central brain controls the rest of the ship. The Enterprise suddenly stops when reaching an oxygen pocket, so Kirk, Spock, Decker and Bones accompany Ilia outside. They have to walk an awfully long way through what I guess is the cranium, but find in the center an old NASA space probe. Voyager 6 disappeared 300 years earlier through a black hole and is where the name V'ger comes from because the aliens who found it didn't think to clean it. The living machines were kind enough to build this ship so it could finish its initial mission of collecting data for Earth, but Voyager amassed so much knowledge that it achieved consciousness. It fried its own transmitter and returned to Earth so that its creator would have to meet Voyager 6 in person if it wanted the data. Having reached the limits of its knowledge, the ship wants to evolve and needs a creator, so Decker volunteers to sacrifice himself. He just wants to be with robot Ilia and makes repairs, allowing Earth to receive the knowledge of the universe. A bright light forms around Decker and he begins to reduce into data or something, I don't really know, but it looks pretty. Ilia joins him in making a fusion while Kirk, Spock and McCoy run for their lives because this whole place is going up. We don't see them make it back, but when V'ger explodes into ripples of light, the Enterprise flies out unharmed. The crew basically just birthed a new species into the universe and tell Starfleet that Decker and Ilia are only missing, not dead. Spock decides to remain on the Enterprise, but his logical brain must struggle when the captain gives the vague heading of that away. And the movie ends.